Welcome to Network Africa. Coming up on the program, Egyptian authorities refute claims that one of their officials called Africans dogs and slaves at a recent conference. Then it's time to change the strategy in the war against Boko Haram. Security and terrorism expert David Otto has the answers. And later, Kigali authorities launch a campaign to clear street vendors from the capital city. Welcome to the program. I am Bisi Adebayo. Now let's begin in Egypt, where an Egyptian deputy assistant minister has stirred controversy after being accused of calling African ministers dogs and slaves at the Friday session of the United Nations Environment Assembly held in Nairobi, Kenya. However, both Egypt's foreign ministry and the Egyptian Ministry of Environment denied the allegations, with the environment minister stating that the Egyptian delegation had already left the meeting at the time of the incident. In a memo to the Dean of the African Diplomatic Corps, Kenyan ambassador to the United Nations Environment Program and chair of the ADC Technical Committee, alleged that following divisions over a resolution on Gaza at the conference, the head of the Egyptian delegation referred to sub-Saharan Africa as dogs and slaves in Arabic. The divisions reportedly evolved after the resolution on Gaza failed to pass due to procedural issues, specifically the fact that many delegations had departed at the time of voting, and the session therefore did not have the minimum number of delegations needed to vote. Now, the Voice of America's Edward Yeranian joins us from Cairo. Thank you, Edward, for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, are these allegations true?
Well, I wasn't there, so I can't say that I heard them. So for that simple reason, I can't say that I necessarily think they're true. But certainly the woman who's making the accusation doesn't look like someone who would make up stories. So I guess it would be, likely to assume that she's telling the truth.
Okay, so if you look at the caliber of those who are actually making these allegations, is there a possibility that they're actually making this up?
I sincerely doubt it. I mean, that being said, I mean, people say things in frustration and anger which they don't really mean, or which they mean only in sort of a momentary fashion. So, I mean, you know, I don't know whether I would try to make a very broad brushed statement from that alleged comment. But that being said, I would tell you frankly that relations in Egypt between people of color are a lot better than they are in some other Arab countries. I mean, in Lebanon, I would say there's a lot more racism than you find in Egypt. I mean, people calling, in Arabic, the word zinouj is, which somewhat implies slave, is something that's used as a place name for in many Arab countries, including Yemen, and also I think even in along the coast in areas where the Swahili or Saheli language is used. So I mean, it's a sort of a historic term. I don't know that you can put all that much meaning into it.
Now, do you think this would have an impact on Egypt as a country, especially looking at the fact that the country has been through a lot in recent times?
Well, certainly it's not a nice thing to say. It certainly doesn't have good implications. Certainly the top officials, the foreign minister, he quickly tried to backtrack on it because he doesn't want there to be a lot of damage from it. I mean, I don't hear Egyptians calling people of color slaves all the time. It's certainly not a common thing if they did it, or if one official did it. You know, I mean, people say undiplomatic things all the time, and I don't know how sincere they necessarily are. So should one place that much stock in a nasty comment like that? Should it have been true? I don't know.
All right, thank you very much for giving us some of your time.
My pleasure.
It's undoubtedly been a very challenging year for Egypt, which has gathered a lot of bad rep for various issues ranging from press freedom to safety of tourists to the Egypt air crash. And now these alleged comments made by an official, which was mentioned earlier on. In truth, the one thing which all these allegations have in common is the fact that they are affecting Egypt's tourism industry in a huge way. But can Egypt turn back the clock and probably reverse the situation? Joining us to discuss this and more is aviation and tourism expert, Ambassador Ikechi Uko. Ambassador Ikechi, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Now, Egypt has been through a lot of trying times, if we'll put it, in recent times. Do you think, how do you reckon their efforts at, trying to rebrand the image of the country, especially with regards to tourism?
Egypt, like they said, is a gift of the Nile. And in history, one of the biggest Egyptologists, Professor Zawi Hawass, who was in charge of the Egyptian antiquities for a long time until the Arab Spring, said something to me when I met with him in Zamalek. He said to me that everybody that comes to Egypt becomes an Egyptian. No ruler or no civilization has tried to make Egyptians Greek or Romans. They can take the citizenship of Arab. They've all been Egyptian. Cleopatra was from the Ptolemaic dynasty, which is Greek. So Egypt over time has had too many. If you dig maybe 20 meters down, you could see 4 or 5 levels of civilization, of occupiers. So Egypt has had a tumultuous history. And the rebranding, they don't need to make so much effort to get themselves back. They hold the most famous icon in history, the pyramids at Gizeh. So tourism, as we know it today, was founded by Thomas Cook trying to take people to Egypt. The 7 wonders of the world came out because Pliny was writing a letter and said you needed to see places, and the first place they named was, after the lighthouse, was the pyramids. So Egypt has an advantage. It's just management of the circumstances and the security, and people. Egypt is on everybody's bucket list. Anybody who wants to travel has Egypt written down somewhere that I have to see the pyramids. So once they get their act right, and they've always rebounded.
Now, what are the Egyptian authorities doing to actually get the tourists back?
Usually there are normal marketing platforms that most people have used for tourism. The first time I saw Egypt trying to do a fire brigade was during the massacre of some American tourists at Luxor, and I was at the World Travel Market. People would do online, they would do road shows, they would do farm trips, they would do travel marketing at trade shows. So Egypt will normally apply the full force, spend a lot of money at these places, and usually talk to the tour operators, bring some people to see that things are okay. 2 or 3 months, a new set of tourists will start coming. So you've seen Egypt has been #1 destination in Africa for the past, we've lost count. And after each problem, 6 months after, they are back again. 3 months after, they are back again. So, which means there is a pent-up desire by most people to go to Egypt. So all they need to do is give people the impression that, or prove to people that we are doing some things right. And there's an effort by the government to counter what has gone wrong. And things get back to normal.
Now, talking about proof, you just hold on to your thoughts there. We'll take a moment now, and when we come back, we continue on Egypt. Please stay with us.
Brought down a Russian passenger plane. The minister in